Hello and welcome to another episode of Releasing Your Inner Dragon, recorded on a Thanksgiving in America. So happy Thanksgiving to all y'all who are killing a turkey today. And we will be doing more plotting today, working on Magic Fall. So we're fitting that in before Drake goes to cook his turkey. And speaking of Drake, this is my co-host Drake.
I'm Max Alexander Drake. I'm an award-winning novelist. I teach writing all over the world. And I
My
do this
name is
podcast.
Marie Mullaney, and I run a fantasy world building channel. And today's episode is brought to you by the members of my fantasy world building channel. If you become a member of my channel, you not only get early access to videos, but you also now get member exclusive videos. And accompanying those videos is a worksheet that you can fill in and add to your world building Bible that you get to download as part of your membership. So if you're interested in that, check out my channel, Just in Time World, and pick up a membership. Okay.
Highly recommended.
Thanks. Let's crack on with Magic Fall. Now, last time when we were here, let me share my screen. Okay. So last time when we were here, we had established that Lyron and Burry will be starting out at a fire outside of control of the city. They'll be discussing Burry's sister's current situation, the radiation sickness. Ghost will give Burry some instructions on how to use the device that they picked up in the last book to cure her sister's sickness. They will go back into the city's control. Lyron's father's people will whisk them past the priest. They will reach the city and split up. Burry will head to the hospital where she uses the device to stabilize her sister. However, her sister is very far gone and she has to use a special setting which transfers some of the radiation to Burry. And Burry then becomes adapted while her sister remains half adapted. Some priests hustle Burry away, telling her sister that she died. And her sister now has teacup. Yeah?
Stop right there.
Yeah.
A complication that we could add right there that would add very little complexity is, and I'm just throwing this out there, so don't write it down just yet. What if Ghost is able to talk to both her and Laron here, and then when she does whatever she does, so what I was thinking of is having Ghost there in that scene would actually be beneficial to ramp up the tension, where Ghost could be like, well, there is a way, but you don't want to do it. And she's like, what is it? Tell me. And he's like, I mean, you could do this, but it could definitely kill you or whatever. And then have whatever happens there sever the link between her and Ghost. And then that would also add the fact that Ghost could tell Laron that something bad has happened to Burry.
So rather than have him link as an in her head, why don't we just have him like phone her on her device? Right? On her arm sleeve, her sleeve. And then when the priests hustle her away, they immediately remove the sleeve.
Can those things be removed? I thought they were embedded into flesh.
They are, but I'm assuming there are ways to remove them.
Or to deactivate them.
Or to deactivate them or something.
Yeah.
Because you don't want, like, if you're hustling somebody away for being adapted, you don't want them, you want them to be able to be called, you know what I mean?
Right. And it was the remove the sleeve that threw me off. Absolutely agree that they would have a way to turn them off or block it or whatever. So that is not what but I thought it was embedded.
Yeah.
So.
But we can definitely Ghost perhaps in the scene. Yeah. We can definitely make a note of that and revisit it. Okay.
It would just give without somebody for her to bounce that off of, it's gonna be harder to build the tension in that scene.
Yeah.
And with Ghost there, he can be that voice. It's like, don't do this. This could turn out really bad. And she's like, my sister's dying. I got to do something. I got to do anything. And then that really builds that tension that wouldn't be there otherwise. I mean,
Yeah.
we could probably do it. It's just it would be a lot tougher.
Yeah. Okay, now on, so Buri enters the priesthood, and where she then builds this relationship with Crazy Helios, and she becomes part of the core of the Adapted, who keep Crazy Helios believing that he is winning the war and that he thus just has to keep providing power to the city. And that is what the priesthood actually does, is they continuously provide power to the city. Lyron
And
on
the
the other
nobility do
side,
not know how they do it.
yeah. Lyron on the other side goes down to the planet, and he there interacts with Mota, because they go down to the village. In the village, Lyron has a Lyron is left for dead by his team, due to, you know, the unhappiness on the planet. He ends up in a Shelob pit with Mota. They help each other to get out. Mota says, you know, I've been kicked out by my village, and my village is moved because they're like, Helios, you know, it's been destroyed and now we have no god, kind of thing. Mota at that point is on the bandwagon of trying to, you know, fake it to get back up to the city and reestablish his connection with Helios and all that kind of thing. But then in the city itself, Mota then actually does have a conversion moment and turns into an atheist when they come up with a plan to save the city from its devastation, right?
Right.
So the city is currently experiencing a lot of tech shutdowns and so on, and Mota's like, no, he can help fix that and so on. And Lyron and Ghost are like, we will ensure, we will build a way to keep him in check. Yeah, to make sure he actually does what he's supposed to do, and not that he does something something that is going to wreck the city, right? And that then in Mota changes his love for Helios, and it turns him away from Helios and actually or away from worshipping Helios, right?
Yeah, it lets him know that that he was on the wrong side of this.
Yes. But the combination of using his supersymmetry magic plus the technology that they're using in order to save the city triggers Crazy Helios that something has gone wrong. Okay, and that in Crazy Helios triggers a response where Buri starts noticing that stuff's going wrong, or that Crazy Helios is no longer acting as it should. She brings it up with her superiors. Her superiors say, oh, well, you know, you're just a kid. What do you know? And she eventually turns to Lyron, and Lyron's like, you know, why didn't you come earlier? What have you been doing? Da-da. And then Mota's there, and Buri is obviously very upset with that. It creates a kind of like a three-person standoff kind of approach. But eventually they do come to the point where they're like, okay, there is only the three of us. We are the three. Like, Crazy Helios is going to stop providing power. The city is going to go down. We need to make a plan. And that is the point up to which we have planned, which is basically the mid-act 2 climax. Yeah?
Yeah, because they've gotten all the tools that they need. And obviously, as we come up with more tools, we'll just have to work them into the first half of Act 2. But, you know, they've gotten everything. Now the actual climax has been revealed. And we're now moving toward that.
Yeah. So, how are they going to stop stop the city falling. So our thoughts was that they would need the help of actual Helios in order to capture crazy Helios, which I'm still good with. Like, I still think that is a good overcome, because it feeds also into our ideas for the third novel.
Yeah, and Ghost is going to have to play some role in this to set him up as the mother to the Helios father.
And the other thing that I think that they need to have in order for this can't just be like give Helios control of the city to land it. Obviously, if they're going to involve Helios, they also need a way to protect people from Helios. And there, the device that Lyran and Ghost built to keep Mota in check can potentially become a plot device if they can expand it to protect people in general from Helios's presence. That can then become a kind of major plot point, a major thing they need to do.
All right, so I'm just going to chase a rabbit here.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the plan is has to fail.
Yeah.
And Helios getting involved. The plan is we get Helios involved and he actually tames crazy Helios and the city stays up.
Okay.
Like, that's the plan. And then whatever happens, it goes awry. And they have to do something to mitigate the damage. That's where we were at, is that the city's going to fall. It's going to be bad, but it would have been so much worse had our boys not done whatever they're going to do.
Okay.
However, what if, and this is the rabbit I'm going to chase, what if we never really allow the audience to know that Mota is actually changed? Like, he says he is, but he does some things that could be considered either way. So we never really know. And when it goes awry, Burry blames him and is like, see, I told you. And now during this, we'd also have to continue to try and beef up the fact that Mota is smitten by Burry and, pursue that one-sided relationship. So that, because I think it would be very tragic at the end with him having spent this time trying to gain her trust and her, friendship and, trying to pursue something with her. And then it seems like he betrayed them, so she blames him for it. And then he ends up sacrificing himself, like whatever the solution is, for somebody, for them to accomplish the solution, somebody has to put themselves in mortal danger. And obviously it goes wrong. It finalizes with death. And he, to prove himself, puts himself in that position to do that, because it kind of gives you the
So I like a lot of that. I'm not quite on board with killing Mota.
You're never on board with killing anybody. Main characters.
What?
I said you're never 100% on board with killing main characters. I mean, no one is.
So yes, sure, but I do think that killing characters is kind of it's the most uninteresting thing we can do, because once they're gone, they're gone.
Right, but it's a huge growth moment for Burry.
But is it though? Because the thing is, also, like, Mota can be a very pivotal character in the next book when we confront Helios himself.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying he couldn't be. He absolutely could be.
I'm hesitant. Okay, so let's say we go through with this. We build up the tension, etc., etc. Mota dies.
Here's the growth for Burry, where I'm thinking. If she's never comfortable in that relationship, like when at the beginning of this book, when they're actually in the campfire, if Laron kind of clumsily, because he is just a teenager and whatever, tries to let her know that he might be attracted to or whatever. And she just completely shuts him down and blows him off. And then Moda comes in and does the same thing. It's basically the same thing she did to him in book 1. When Moda proves that he actually was on the right side with the ultimate sacrifice in book 3, it could be the catalyst that opens her up to be more receptible to pursuing a relationship with Laron.
Something about that is hitting me wrong. It feels like, because Buri was never interested in a relationship with Mota. Right? She wasn't interested before when she thought he was half adapted like her. She's not going to be interested in one now. So he's going to be pursuing her. Then he's going to sacrifice himself. But through all this, she's never been interested in a relationship with him. So why would his death make her want to date Lyran? Like, it doesn't hit me as a good growth moment. It hits me as a Mota is dying to make space for Lyran, which is kind of iffy reason to kill a character.
All right, I can see that, but the growth for me would be twofold. One, the life isn't guaranteed and you can't wait forever. And that's a good growth moment for a character. And 2, yeah, she's not interested in Moda, but she's also not interested in anything. She's just pushing everything off. And she's not allowing herself to even see a possibility for any relationship. And because of that, it could open her to being more receptive to not just instantly shutting down anyone who approaches her in a romantic way.
I just like I'm struggling to see that lesson coming out of Mota's death.
Like I said, I can see it with the fact that she's completely not interested in him at all. That does throw a fly in the ointment.
So for that to work, she would need to have an interest in him.
Right.
And then if we do it that way around, then my problem is, so now it really looks like we killed Mota to make space for Lyran. Because in the next book, she's like, oh, the guy I might have been interested in sacrificed himself, and now I'm going to hook up with this pure blood instead.
Right. No, I get that. I would not be interested in her trying to pursue a relationship. But that's why I said I was going to chase a rabbit.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I'm not averse to it. I just want it to be like for good, not just for plot reasons.
Right. Well, I was mostly, I had a gut feeling that it might be for character growth.
Yeah.
But that's why I wanted to chase it to see where it went.
It might have more impact on Lyra.
I can see that too.
Because if Mota sacrifices, like, what if Mota, yes, he develops this he's still got his crush on Buri and we play with that. But what if he develops a real, because now he's shed his diciness, right? What if Lyran does believe him? Whether or not Buri does, Lyran does. Lyran believes that Moto's genuinely changed. And they develop a real friendship, right? 2 outcasts, right? And, in their class. And that helps Lyran break down the last remnants of that kind of, inherited racism that he's got. And then at the end, there's a moment where it's, you know, between the two of them kind of thing. Buri's doing something else in the overcome, whatever, and it's between Lyran and Mota. And Mota says, I'll do it. She likes you, or something like that. You know, and Mota sacrifices himself.
So to make that work,
yeah.
We would have to build a friendly rivalry between Mota and Lyron for trying to gain Buri's affection.
Yes.
Like Buri would not be included in this other than just being the target. It would be those two
yes.
that were talking to each other about it.
Yeah.
And kind of ribbing each other and having that bro kind of contest where whoever wins, but you know, the other one is not going to fault them for it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, but I'm thinking that it doesn't even have to involve Buri. I just thought it might be an interesting toy. But I mean, the point is to build a real friendship between them. And then Mota's death becomes...
Yeah, I get all that. Yeah. Actually, I just realized there's something probably better than that. So Mota still stays smitten with Buri. Buri is not interested in him at all. And through this book, Buri starts to make advances toward Laron, and Laron is too shy or too caught up or too, you know, caught up in his own head or whatever. And then at the end, when Mota sacrifices himself and says, you know, you're an idiot, by the way, because Buri actually likes you, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
So Mota could be the one that actually wakes Laron up to that fact.
Yeah. See, that works better for me as a growth angle, because that is a last destruction of Laron's remnant of his fault.
Right. Because that actually plays in what you were saying, because Laron can say something like, but I mean, I'm a pureblood and she's fully adapted. Yeah. And then Mota's like, and that matters how.
Yeah.
You only live once. And then he goes and he does his thing.
Exactly.
I do like that.
I think that would be like, for that, I will kill Mota. I think that would be a good growth element. Like, you know how I feel about it. Like, I'm not averse to killing characters. I have killed characters. For me, it's always just about, is the payoff for the death big enough? You know,
always. Like I said, I just had a gut feeling that there was something there. I just wanted to kind of chase it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're doing that. Let's just put that in a possibility. Actually, I don't know if Lyron would be oblivious. He's more of she's not actually serious. Because I don't want to do the whole trope of, you know, the shy farm boy. But if it's like, you know, if Laron's like, yeah, she's only doing that to make you jealous. Like, she's not actually interested in me. That's just stupid. So we still have the two of them talking about it.
Yeah.
And that would also feed into Laron's unconscious bias, because he'd be like, but no, I mean, you're the adapted, she's adapted. That's, you know, that's the way the world works.
She's attracted to you, obviously, because you're both adapted.
Right. Yeah. And that would have Laron see her in a different way.
Yeah.
We have to plant that in the campfire scene, though.
Yes. Where
she says something innocuous, but that the audience can pick up of, wait a minute, does Buri like? And then Mota needs to be the first one to notice that it's actually happening.
Yeah. We know that the plan that they come up with is Helios to tame crazy Helios, but this goes wrong. this plan goes wrong.
Mhm.
And so what do they then have to do? They then have to guide the city to the surface,
Yeah, they have to do some type of stopgap.
and they have to protect people from Helios because mind control, right?
Okay. All right. What about this? I'm gonna chase a rabbit here again. Again, I don't know if this is gonna go anywhere. Just a gut feeling. So the plan is they go to Helios, and Helios is like, you know what? Um, I do miss that other part of me. I will help you and I'll save your city. Because it'll reunite me with that other part of me. And they're like, okay, that's a legitimate reason.
Mm-hmm.
But Helios is never planning on doing that.
No.
He's literally planning on using this as a way to drop the city.
And take control of
So,
the people.
huh?
And take control of the people.
Right.
Yeah.
Or actually, yeah, how about that? No, I'm sorry. That's not, again, I'm hopped up on NyQuil. For those that don't know, I've been sick this week. So my brain is not exactly 100% engaged. No, I went down the wrong path. Helios doesn't betray them. In that way. He's not talking about lowering the city. What he's going to do is, yes, I will get in there and I will tame crazy Helios and make sure the city has power for, forever. Like, we can do this. It's easy. Just you just got to help me get in there. And what his betrayal is that once he's inside, he's going to do the mind control. And they don't realize this. So when Helios fixes crazy Helios and there's plenty of power, he starts taking over the city and people start changing. And they realize the only way to sever the connection to save the people will also sever the connection to the city's power. And so they're making the decision to drop the city out of the sky because it's a better alternative than everyone becoming Borg. And then they have to figure out a way to do it to where it isn't catastrophic. And that gives us our ticking time clock because they'll have to figure out something. Right. Like, we have to connect.
What if what Helios does is he infects people's sleeves like a virus?
Mm-hmm.
And so it starts spreading through the city. Like, it can't just, spread through the network. It's got to be like, I don't know, transactional, So when you make a transaction with somebody, that's how it spreads. So they become aware of it, and then it's got to be then like that, then you've got the spread of the disease, the thing through the city.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. No, I mean, however he betrays them,
Yeah.
it still comes down to the whole. I like the idea of the gang realizing they have to choose between two bad things. We either allow everybody to become Borg and then hope for the best from that, or we sever the power, the city falls out of the sky, and we figure out how to make it not a catastrophe. And they're like, well, I don't want to be a Borg because I watch Star Trek and I know that's bad.
I just like using the sleeves because it's something we've built up.
Yeah.
And returning to things that you've built up always like makes it more satisfying.
Well, and also it can be twofold. It can start off as just transactional.
Yeah.
And then once it's in, it doesn't do anything really bad. But as he gets key people, he can actually set it up to transmit to everybody. And so that's when everything takes off. And that's when they're like, oh crap, if he gets this done, he's going to transmit one big burst and everyone's going to be a Borg all at one time. Because I think it can't stay transactional.
Yeah.
He has to step up the game and do something that's going to be catastrophic for them to choose to do the catastrophic drop the city out of the sky.
It's transactional because it's looking for somebody to take him into the engineering core.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's more like a stealth virus in the beginning.
Yeah.
And this can actually be planted because ghosts can notice that something's going on.
Yeah.
And kind of warn. And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, everything seems fine. We won. And he's like, something's wrong.
Okay. So the plan is for Helios to tame crazy Helios. Helios says, absolutely sure, no problem. I'll take my crazy part back and I will power the city. He does that. Absolutely. No, he does not betray them on that point. But
now we have to make sure that it's believable that he would do this and that they would.
Yeah.
Like he has to gain something that the gang goes, yeah, that's why he's doing this. He is absolutely doing this because he's gaining this thing. It can't just be, oh yeah, no, I tried to kill you guys last book, but I'm going to absolutely help you out this time. Sure.
Yeah. It needs to have a real gain for Helios.
And Moto can be that connection where it's like, the big problem that Helios has always had is X.
Yeah.
And technically we could offer him X as a payment for doing this.
Okay. Then
it has to be believable.
Yeah. Okay. So then Helios does help them. He does restore the power, but he also infects the city with this virus. Ghost becomes aware of it first, then the rest of the gang become aware of it. And it sets up our ticking time clock because the virus is spreading through people. And it's going
and they don't know how it's spreading.
And they don't know how it's spreading. And it's going to find somebody who can take Helios into the innards of the city so he can blast out the virus at large to the city, and then everybody becomes a ball. So they have to act fast. And the only way, yeah.
So the end of Act 2 is them actually figuring out what's really going on, and unfortunately too late figuring out that it's already affected the person who is already on their way to engineering. So that is the end of Act 2, because that's your delineation point of, everything's going to end now.
Yeah.
And so now we are in Act 3 and we're going to the actual climax of the story.
So now the gang has to pick between the city falling or Helios's control, because the only way to stop him is to sever him from the city and kill the power. And that, I think, should take us back to crazy Helios's room, because that is where Mota can do the sacrificing.
So first of all, Mota's sacrifice doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be, what actually does the overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Mota's sacrifice should be the rescue from without.
Yeah.
In other words, he has to sacrifice himself so that they can then get to the overcome, not sacrifice himself for the overcome. So the all hope is lost moment is what Mota sacrifices himself to get past, not the climax. So in other words, like, in just to get everyone else on board, so in Star Wars, when Luke Skywalker's in the trench and Darth Vader's behind him and Han Solo is our rescue from without, instead of coming in and shooting Darth Vader and saying, "You're all clear, kid," Han rams his ship into Darth Vader's ship because he has no guns and kills both of them. But then that frees Luke to be able to do the actual overcome, which is drop the torpedo into the chute.
Yeah.
So Mota would be that. He would be Han Solo sacrificing himself so that then that clears the path for, because the characters still have to do the overcome. Mota can't do the overcome.
Yeah.
So whatever the all hope is lost moment becomes needs to be something that Mota can sacrifice himself for to get past it.
So, how are they going to sever the city from the power? They're going to need to disconnect the power and then somehow pilot the city down to the ground. And I think that we need to split them up at this point.
Agreed.
Okay. So potentially Buri can go to the power side and Lyran, like our ideal here is to put one of them at the piloting and one of them on the power side.
Now, this has to be because of Burry's new powers. Whatever the piloting happens, it has to happen because Burry has gained a new magical power that she didn't have before. Because of this is where the payoff comes in for her being adapted.
Yes. So what if, like, they figure out how to pilot the ship? You can do it from like there's because okay, so the city is constructed out of many spaceships, right? That's the law. Okay, it's been patched together out of what remained of the spaceships, and that's why it has, you know, hyperdrives and gravity and all the rest of that stuff. What if one of the ships still has a functional, you know, bridge kind of dangling off the bottom of the city?
They don't
There
use it because
is,
there's no reason to, because they're in geosynchronous orbit.
yes, but it's just a remnant,
Right.
right? But it exists there because when they were putting everything together, there didn't seem any reason to cut it off, basically. Right. I mean, it's open to the elements, essentially, which means it's also open to supersymmetry radiation. So she can use her supersymmetry radiation magic there and make that bridge work and basically attempt to fly the city like it was a spaceship. And Mota and Lyran are going to cut Helios's connection to the ship, to the city, so that the power stops. And once that's done, the city will start drifting towards the land or falling towards the land. And she then needs to, you know, use the bridge and power it and so on.
And mitigate the speed.
Yeah.
Ghost is going to need to go with her.
Yes.
Because, you know, the line needs to be something like, you want me to fly the city?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to drive a cab.
Yes, she doesn't know how to drive anything.
Right. And Ghost is like, no, with your supersymmetry magic, we can make this happen. And Laron's like, you know, I'll go with you. And Mota's like, no, it's going to take two of us to do this other thing.
Yeah.
Because it's going to have to be also because of supersymmetry magic as well.
Yeah. And he needs Lyran's engineering. Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's going to take two of them. They have to have both of them for the boys' side of the equation.
Yeah. Okay, so the gang have to pick between the city falling or Helios's control, because the only way to stop him is to sever him from the city and kill the power. And the reason why they can't use the same thing that they used on Mota earlier to change his mind is because that is one person. Like, it's one person at a time.
I don't remember them using something to change his mind other than persuasion and the fact that he's got betrayed.
So we said that something physically changes in Mota's brain because he is he's semi-Borgified. That was why I was saying, like, maybe we can work that in and have that be something that they then like, okay, we need to protect people from Helios as well. So we need to expand this thing to de-Borgify people.
So a scene just popped into my head of that. I don't remember us going down it, but just to chase another rabbit. So when Mota and Laron are doing their thing to save each other, there has to come a point where, to set this up, where Mota's like, this is what we need to do. And he's like, okay, do it. And he's like, I can't. What do you mean you can't? I can't explain it. And then Ghost needs to say something like, you know, it's because he has this thing. And so that gives us, okay, that actually works really well because we never figured out how they save each other. So Moda can actually save them by himself, but his implant won't let him do the thing.
Yeah.
And so Laron, using his engineering, frees Moda of the shackles of slavery. And therefore, now Moda can save the both of them from the physical situation.
Okay.
And that is how they work together to save each other, but they're doing separate things. And then they both feel obligated to the other.
Yeah.
Because, and maybe that's it. So we had the Shelob that Moda was already there. I think we should reverse that. Let Laron get captured first. And then when he's captured, Moda shows up. And he's like, Moda, what are you doing here? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, well, you got to get me out of here. He's like, I can't. He's like, what are you talking about? And he literally just walks in and gets himself, taken as food. He's like, I can't stop doing this. And that's when Laron realizes something is controlling him. Basically, my thinking behind this is that Helios is just getting rid of him because he's failed him. And so, he's like, well, I don't understand why you just did that. That's insane. He's like, I don't have control of this. And you can tell, we'd have to do it to where he's struggling or whatever. And then that's when Laron figures out he can free him, gets that done. And then as soon as that happens, then Moda's like, oh my goodness, I can actually save us. And that's where we introduce his magic.
Okay, I'm on board with that. My question is, why isn't that an option for the city?
What do you mean?
So they know how to deborgify Mota. In Act 3, why can't they deborgify the city?
Because it's not a implant. It's not a physical implant in the city. It's a virus. It's a software virus.
Okay. So this removal of power will also hit the virus?
Well, it shuts everything down.
Okay. All right. I can get behind that. So basically, it's not...
Because remember, they go through a transformation process. Because remember, she came out as a Borg. She came out as a cyborg.
Yeah.
So it physically changes them in that thing from book 1.
Yeah.
But what we're doing here is
it's like a temporary, the direct hand of Helios. I'm with you. I can work with that. The virus, I just need to make a note to myself. The virus needs to basically be the direct hand of Helios controlling people, not the same as Mota. And he can only do it because he has control of the power system.
Right. So we can definitely work it in that the software virus isn't saved anywhere. It's only, it has to have constant power. So the only way to break it is to turn off the power.
Yeah.
But to turn off the power means
the city solves
we're gonna fall in the sky. And there's your overcome.
Yeah.
So Burry can go down and be there ready, because when the power gets cut, the city doesn't slowly drift down. It falls.
Yeah.
And so they have to, then the boys are going to have to turn the city back on and do it before the city hits the ground.
Yeah.
And then Burry's going to have to turn on all the thrusters to try and stop it from slamming the ground as hard as it's going to be.
Yeah.
She never actually flies it. It's just activate the anti-grav on max, and hopefully we don't smash into a billion pieces when we hit the ground.
Yeah, so they've got to keep the power off for X seconds, which will it'll be enough for them to hit terminal velocity. There's no stopping. There's
Right.
only cushioning. Okay. The boys have to turn the power back on. And Buri.
Yeah, because that needs to be the easy part needs to be turning the power off.
Yeah.
Just flip a switch, basically.
Yeah.
Because the tension is going to come into how they have to turn it back on.
All hope is lost. They can't get back into the room. It's filled with
Or they can't turn it
supersymmetry
on
radiation.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Because Moda can't do whatever he does unless it's going to kill him.
Yeah. Moda's sacrifice opens the way for Lyran to switch the power.
And it's a just in time. And he screams into his mic, "Now, Buri."
Pilots.
And Buri slams on the activator to turn on the whatever. The city slows some, but still slams hard into the ground. And there's still a lot of destruction and badness that happens. But it isn't catastrophic like it would have been if they just hit.
Yeah.
There's still one fog of war that we need to figure out.
Yeah.
And we need to figure it out in a way that also still makes it fit with book one. So in book one, Helios is trying to bring the city down so he can take control of the people.
Yes.
I think it has to be more than that. It has to be that the city is stopping Helios in some way. And that's why getting inside the city for Helios bypasses the problem that he's been having taking control of the people. In other words, we need to leave this book with oh, thank goodness we survived. We saved most of the city's lives, but now we're all completely vulnerable to Helios. And that's where this book needs to end.
I think.
Because book 3 is all about that. It's all about Helios ramping up his attack. And now the thing that was saving the city is gone, which was the city.
What if the city's dome was in some way preventing Helios from taking over people?
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah. Like the actual kind of physical dome of the city.
This one just needs to end with they win, but they lose.
Yeah.
And then that sets up the climactic third installment. Like, okay, now how are they going to save the remnants of the people they saved from becoming Borg anyway? Borgified.
Okay. I think that is enough for me to complete the outline.
I think so too. I think we worked out the last fogs of war.
Yeah. And then we can, once we have the complete outline, I guess we can start writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about this. This has turned into a fantastic story. Very much more complex than the first one, but the first one's a great starting point.
Yeah. We had to have the first one, and it had to be reasonably simple because it's a lot like Katniss. The first story, Katniss's first book, is a simple book. It's a simple linear story, but it had to be a simple linear story because it's your introduction to a complex world. And it's, in our case, an especially complex world because we went on the other side of Earth, completely foreign environment, like crazy different evolution, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to have a fairly simple story in order to allow the world building to unfold for the reader.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, I think that is a wrap for this episode. I hope that you, our audience, have enjoyed listening to us plot. And I guess the next time we talk about this, it might be to crit the first few chapters.
Yep.
And we will see you soon for another one.
Bye.